video. Today we'll do part 2 of our flatfall assist hook series. Alright, so I showed you this one on the first video. Okay, so let's go ahead and actually put one option for the connection. Okay, so we'll put in the ball bearing swivel, and as discussed in that video, what happens is that it will give this a lot of motion. Okay, it will give it a lot of motion, especially the rolling motion. Okay, now for the next one, we'll rig this. Okay, we'll rig this jig. It's the same weight, same size and everything. We will rig this with spade head hooks, and this is the JF25 Jigger Light. Now, one thing you should note is that we're using hooks that are actually kind of bigger than normal. Okay, so you can see here that they're about the same size, even if they're different types of hooks. This is about the same size, and these are way big. If you put this in the traditional way we're sizing slow jigs, you can see that it sticks out a lot. Again, the usage of these hooks are kind of different from traditional slow jigging uses. Okay, we're gonna use the same cord. I forgot to mention that this cord is actually I forget the brand of this cord, but this is a core version. Is a PE core version. Okay, assist cord. So it has braid inserts inside, not fluorocarbon. Okay, so what we will do is we will actually cut this. Okay, now we'll cut this shorter than normal, and basically what you're doing is taking the length like so, like that. Okay, and if you fold it, you'll have about that long. Okay, now what we're doing is we're going to take about ½ an inch off. Okay, okay, and then we will form 2 square knots at the very end, and you leave a little bit of tag so that you could burn it off. Okay, so there's 1, there's 2, okay, and then you tighten. So how you tighten this, or at least how I tighten it, I just take a pair of pliers like that. So this has a gap, you can see. Okay, you can see the gap right there, just like that. Then take another pair of pliers. Now usually I take, again, there's a gap there, and I do one at a time. So okay, this doesn't do it, so I'll take flat pair, just clamp on the tag end there, and then that will cinch it down. It will also cinch this down. Now take this, form a ball, and it locks that in place, and same with this one, locks that in place. Okay, now I usually mount this upside down. We will be using this binding thread from YGK. Okay, I will wind up to about the point. Okay, parallel to the point. We'll zoom you in so that you see. Okay, so you can see there, wind it up to that point, cut the tag end, then put our line there, spiral out. Okay, I spiral out, you can see there, and then make sure that the very end is at the line right there, and then you can tightly go back. Now with practice, this is easy. It does take some time, otherwise spiral in and then start your wraps. Okay, so right there, just fill the gaps like so. Okay, and then close or lock it using whatever knot you prefer. Okay, tighten that like so. Fuzzies there. Okay, so take your lighter and just do a bit of that. You don't it's not constant, you just, okay, you just flash it and it should take care of all the fuzzy stuff. Now take your glue, tissue, just in case you go over. Okay, check the tip if it's blocked or not. If it's blocked, then I usually just shave it off. Okay, now we're ready to glue up. Okay, make sure it's all around and make sure you have substantial amount. Now I usually use a barbecue stick or any sort of needle tool, which is called a bodkin, and then just make sure that the whole thing is covered. Okay, you have to put a little bit more than usual because this sort of thread actually absorbs the super glue. So when it absorbs, it goes through this, and remember there's PE core, and it absorbs the glue and helps it stick to the shank. Now remember, we also wrapped the shank before we put this on, so that absorbs it again and basically just makes this whole thing plasticized. Okay, now what I usually do is zap this because we don't have time. Otherwise I would just let it dry up on its own, and when it does that, okay, you can just clean it up and with your fingers and it's clean like that. Okay, now we're ready to do the second one, and it's the same procedure. Okay, same procedure. We will wrap up to the eye like so. Okay, flash the fuzzies. Okay, now you need to be very careful with this. We will tape it. I use up a lot of masking tape just for the sake of my safety, because I have been stabbed a lot of times. So after taping the tip, I will fold it like so, and then I will tape that again. Like that. Okay, so it's pointing away from me and it makes it easier for me to just wrap the usual speed. Okay, now I always say that you can spiral in, but if you know what you're doing, okay, you could actually start your wrap immediately, just like that. Okay, and you'll find that if you're able to do that, it's actually a bit more clean. It's cleaner. It's a cleaner method, but it does take a while to get there. So I used to tie a lot of flies, so my thread control and my material management is better than the average tire, at least for assist hooks. I'm not saying that I'm a good fly tire, but I've had practice, so you know, material handling and thread control is way better than average. Okay, so there we go. So you can see it's the speed is also there, because tying these is actually very easy compared to tying flies. It's a bit more complicated. So here we go. You also get a really good understanding with glue, because you have to deal with all sorts of glue when you're fly tying. Okay, especially epoxies and all that. Silicone epoxies and all that, because of the flies that I tied before. Right, so now make sure that that's evenly spread out, like so. Very important to actually spread this out, because while you're doing this, it also gives the glue time to permeate. Okay, so that's that. Now we just zap it. Okay, that should have taken care of it. Okay, so just clean that up. My fingers. There we go. Now we can take the tape off and install the solid ring. Now I always do this, which is a very important step, at least for me. No, some people don't, but this basically sets everything. Okay, so I take this like so, then pull. So what this does is it basically sets the nuts and the what do you call this, the glue. So what I mean by set is that when you pull, anything that would move here would move to their final position, and that's it. I mean, it shouldn't actually, it shouldn't move because you've already glued it, just to check. Alrighty, so again, instead of tying them in the opposing position, for this one, just as a variation, we'll actually tie it like so. Now this is going to be very useful when you're dropping down deeper. Let's say you want to reach the bottom and you want to catch some bottom fish. You could do this. You could just drop it down. As soon as it gets to the bottom, you reel up a few cranks, let's say 20 cranks, and then drop down again, and then repeat the process until you catch, like, I don't know, it will be probably good for rockfish, because that sort of retrieve will be good for grouper. Okay, now let us I'm gonna steal a solid ring from Wael here. There we go. So we need a small solid ring, which he almost doesn't have really. Okay, but we found one, because he has a big ones. Alrighty, so for this, you know, you could use a small solid ring. I have something here that's I think it's a number 4. Okay, so take this, Okay, so the method that we're going to use here is also going to be different from the first one. Okay, so we have that one loop, and then we'll loop this again like so. So it's a double loop method. Okay, there we go. Tighten this. Okay, so that won't move, but just for security purposes, what I will do is tighten this like that. Okay, now it moved a bit. Now I'm gonna tighten it again. There we go. That should not move, and that's your final position, like so. Okay. Notice that there's no flash. As soon as you put flash there, this will actually stop moving, because what happens is that when this moves, this will act like a parachute and stop the jig from moving. So not a good idea to actually put flash now, or too much. You could put a little bit, but not too much. Now let's put this like so. Okay, and there you have it. Okay, now at the top here, what we will do is put a solid ring. Okay, and I'll show you exactly what happens when you put the solid ring there. So, solid ring. Okay. So when you put a solid ring, oh, I hooked myself. Ouch. Ouch. That will bleed. Okay, so if you hook, okay, that's your line right there. Okay, so what happens is that it has a restriction on the roll. Okay, but it has a lot of the side to side motion. So this will actually swim side to side more, whereas this will have a lot more roll. Okay, it will swim side to side, but it has a lot of roll. Okay, so when you put something like this, okay, a crane swivel, what happens is that it will restrict the roll a little bit and will have a bit more. So something in the middle of the solid ring. Okay, so it does affect the action, does, or the attachment does affect the swimming of the jig. And yeah, I mean, of course, if you put this up in the air and then test it out like that, it's not going to show you anything. But as soon as you introduce water pressure, you'll see exactly what the effect is. And remember, surface pressure is also very different from deep pressure when it's down there. And the deeper you go, the more you will see that the action is actually there, because it gets pressed and it gets compressed. And remember, it gets harder the deeper you go. And remember, when you're also deep down, the pressure not only affects the jig but also your line. Okay, and the angle of your line changes as well, because the deeper you go, the more C it's gonna have on your line, the more belly the line will have because of current. Okay, and that's another thing. It's not just the pressure of the water that affects your jig, it's also the current. So trying to show this whole process when you're just hanging it up in the air, you can't. Alrighty, so that's it for now, for this at least. So that concludes our tutorial for the flatfall hooks, or flatfall assist hooks. Alrighty, so if you have questions, just please drop them in the comment section. If you learned something, give this video a thumbs up. And if you haven't yet and you want to learn a lot more, click on the subscribe button. Obviously, fishing is a very social activity, and if you want your friends to learn with you, share the video. Now here's a tip. You know when you actually learn something and then a lot of people ask you, especially when you're fishing, kind of such a bother. So the shortcut is to actually just send them the channel. That way, you don't have to answer their questions, no matter how stupid they are. They watch the same videos as you. Unless you gatekeep, then that's your issue, not mine. Alrighty, so that's it for now. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Class dismissed.